I think that in general we talk a lot about the Holocaust. We talk about all kinds of things. We don't talk enough about. I don't know that we have to talk enough about it, but we don't really stop and think what the Inquisition meant to the Jewish people. We have an Inquisition, something that went on in Europe as well, mostly to Jews of Spain, Portugal, later even to as far as America. The Inquisition office closed its doors in the United States. Do you know when?
1960.
1927 was the last time the Inquisition office opened in New Mexico. In 1927, the Inquisition office, it still operates today out of New Mexico. It just has a different name because it can't go by the name Spanish Inquisition. They can't. It's not a politically correct name. Sure.
So who funds that?
The Catholic Church.
Yes.
What they do is they believe very much that they're all kind. The way they operate today, they don't claim that they're running after Jews per se, but they're responsible for setting Catholic doctrine and to make sure that any church or any pastor that doesn't follow Catholic doctrine will be excommunicated from the church. Okay. And the effect that it had on world Jewry, we still don't know, because there are tens of thousands of Jews that were forced to convert to Christianity, and their descendants are still at large. We don't know who they are. We don't know where to find them. We know the general direction of where they are. Some estimates say that between 30 and 50 million people in the world today are descendants of the Jews that converted to Christianity. If you look at the Nevi'im, the prophets tell us that one day we'll return to Israel, will be like the sand of the shore, and will be like the stars in the sky. The Abarbanel over there, Rabbi Yitzchak Abarbanel, who was what was his job?
He was the treasurer.
He was the treasurer of the king of Spain before the Spanish expulsion. He was then expelled from Spain. Although he was offered by the king, hey, stay here, we like you very much, we need you around, I'll even leave 9 Jews to live with you, that way you'll have a minyan. And the Barbanel said, if you exile my people, I'm going with my people. And he left behind his wealth and his riches and everything that he had in order to go to Galut with the Jewish people. The Barbanel writes in his diary, he said, I always knew that there were animals that walked on 4 legs. He said, but after the Spanish expulsion, I realized there are also animals that walk on 2 legs. And he was very moved by it. The Barbanel, in his commentary on this verse, the Jewish people will be like the sea of the shore. The Barbanel writes, these are the Jews who were forced to convert to Christianity. That one day their descendants will be so large, they'll be like the sand of the... we look at the Jewish people, we're 6 million people. 6 million, it's a big number compared to 100 people, but compared to other nations in the world, other religions in the world, we're not even a number. We're not even a statistic.
I thought we were a quarter of 1% in the States.
We are a quarter of 1%. So we have 6 million Jews in Israel. I think like 5 million Jews in America, or the other way around. We have some 12 million Jews in the world today. Imagine adding to that 30 or 50 million Jews. Our numbers, there are some estimates that say 100 million Jews. There's even one researcher who I always dismissed as being too fanatic, but she believes that almost all of South America is Jewish, technically. Okay, let's let her keep thinking. But there are reasons to believe that many of the people who fled to South America fled because they were fleeing the Inquisition. Why else would somebody leave their home to go to South America? What was the point? And it makes sense. It makes sense that very many of those Jews, and we're living in a world where there are people who, in their blood, they feel Jewish, they feel connected to Judaism, and they're not Jewish, and they have this internal struggle their whole life. I cannot tell you in this Bet Knesset how many people I've seen come through the doors that say, I feel Jewish. I don't know how to explain it. I was raised Catholic, but I feel Jewish, and I don't know what to do with myself. Conversion, it's a very hard process. I don't want to become observant. I don't want to keep Shabbat. I don't want to do... On the other hand, I don't want to be Catholic anymore, but I want to be Jewish, but I still want to believe in Jesus. A certain duality of personalities that they don't know what to do with. We just have a person in our community now who's Baruch Hashem on the path of conversion, and he told me that his family, he was raised Catholic as Catholic gets, not a Jew, not anything. And his aunts, when they would fry their tortillas, they would always take a bit of the dough and burn it in the skillet. Kind of like hafroshat challah. Now, obviously, you don't take challah from tortillas, but okay, that was... I don't think they knew the halakha so many hundreds of years after You just want to hang out with me?
I had, well, here, a Mexican lady, she said that she salts and washes, she rubs the chicken with salt and then washes it before cooking.
Huh.
And I said, how do you do that? She said, I don't know, but that's, she didn't say rub, but she said salt it and wash something. And she said, that's my husband's tradition, and her mother did it. And I said, I started asking the last name and where they come from. And yeah, a lot of people, I used to live in Monterrey when I was married, and a lot of people there would have been Jews. And actually, I had a friend that she told me a lot of the names, the last names that had to do with nature, and Perez, and all of them, they have Jewish roots.
Sure, there's a list. The Catholic Church in 1999 put out a list of 10,000 last names that they tortured in the Spanish Inquisition. And it's like, yeah, sure, let's just publish our evil history. They published it, and many people have found that certain names that you may have heard of, Rodrigo, or Rodriguez, or Pereira, and such names, they're all Jewish names. At least at the time of the Inquisition, those were exclusively Jewish names. And the stories that I hear, I had a student of mine in Israel, her family from Albuquerque. They used to have a custom that at every doorpost, they had not a mezuzah, it was a Mother Mary on their doorpost. And it was an ancient Catholic tradition. The problem is when she left her hometown, no Catholic in the world had ever heard of putting Mother Mary on your doorpost. Just like her mother used to go get Holy Saturday water. And because she only took water from the well on Friday, but not on Saturday. So the idea behind it was that Catholics have to prepare their water from Friday. And then when she left Albuquerque, she said, there's no such thing as Holy Saturday in any Catholic group. And she realized that all of these things were very Jewish traditions that were left over in her home and in her family. Why are we talking about this now? Well, I'll tell you there are two issues. We spoke recently about conversion and about converting people to Judaism and all kinds of things that might happen. I don't think that we have yet, as a community, have decided on protocol. What happens when somebody comes to the Jewish community and says, I think I might be Jewish. I'm 500 years being persecuted by the Catholic Church, and I would like to come back home. And our answer, and I'm going to tell you that's the sad truth, our answer is normally that of persecution. We don't mind conversions from all kinds of places, but when people come to us as Catholics, in our Jewish community, we're terrified of Catholicism, we're terrified of Christianity, we're terrified of things like Jesus. And to bring somebody who's, let's say, an atheist from the streets of America or some agnostic, is much easier for us to consider conversion than somebody who's passionate about their New Testament and passionate about, than they're telling me, but I'm Jewish. And unfortunately, the way it was worded to me by one of my students was, the Catholic Church has persecuted us for 500 years, and now the Jewish community persecutes us for the rest. And it's a sad thing. The conservative movement made a decision that anybody who claims to be from the Anusim, from the Jews who were forced to convert, I don't like the word Marranos. Marrano means pig in Spanish. Anusim is the word the rabbis always chose to use. Anusim are people who were forced to do something they didn't want to do. For example, ones in Hebrew is the word for rape. Something to do, or ones is a mistake, something that someone did wrong, they didn't intend to do. Anusim are people who were forced to convert to Christianity. In academic circles, they call them crypto-Jews, Jews that were trying to hide. They were undercover. I was once invited to the crypto-Jewish conference. Every year they have a conference of the Bnei Anusim, and maybe 4 years ago was here in San Diego at Hotel Circle. I was there. It was an incredible thing. Things that I never knew, I never heard of before. It was a real eye-opener. And it's something that I don't agree with the conservative movement. There's a blanket statement, anybody who walks in the door, you take them. But if that's happening over there, we must have some kind of protocol by us of what happens when such a scenario comes up. Paulette got us pages from Wikipedia regarding Kol Nidrei. If you would like to look at them, the origins of Kol Nidrei, the sources, the history, this is an excellent packet. I don't know what this picture is, but it seems like a very old print of Kol Nidrei inside of Machzor. I wanted to share with you an article from Rabbi Nathan Lopez Cardozo that I mentioned it last night in the class. I'm going to give you copies of this article. Maybe we could pass this around. Thank you.
There was this couple that moved to Israel, remember?
Yeah.
And he was offended that he needed to convert because he grew up in Mexico, a place where they had a community, and they had a Mesader Kiddushin, and they were marrying within themselves.
I knew that community.
It's,
It's next to Puebla. It's los judíos
forgot the name.
I had it in my mind. I was going to mention something. Yeah.
So it's not the only place that I've heard of it. In South America, we once got a phone call when I was in Jerusalem that there was an entire community of people living there. They consider themselves not Jewish, but there was only one man in town who was able to slaughter animals, and he had a special knife that was a shechita knife. It was just 500 years in the rusting. It wasn't kosher by any standard of the imagination, but he was the only man allowed to slaughter any animal they would bring. They would drain the blood, they would salt the animals, all kinds of things, and they claimed to be Catholic. They
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
the
tell
name
me.
of the place is Metaprieta.
Very interesting. And this is something that the Jewish community has to start thinking about, because there are many, many, many people who would come and join the Jewish people if they would only be shown the road. Not necessarily given shortcuts, but shown the road, be guided along the path of how to do it.